For almost every animal that has ever lived, a dead body means nothing at all. It's a meal, or it's a warning to move on. A wildebeest steps over one of its own fallen in the grass and keeps grazing. A sparrow feels nothing when it hops past another sparrow gone stiff and cold. For most of life on this planet, death is just a shape on the ground you walk around. And then there are the few who stop. A killer whale who won't let her baby sink. An elephant who stands over old bones for an hour and goes silent. A mother chimpanzee who carries her dead infant for weeks, long after the tiny body has dried out, still grooming its fur. A small handful of animals seem to notice when one of them is gone, and they do things that make the hair on your arms stand up. The question is, what's actually going on inside them? Do they understand that the thing in front of them is over, that it isn't coming back? Or are they just confused by a friend who suddenly won't wake up? That gap between reacting to a body and truly grasping death is one of the strangest questions in all of biology. And the closer you look, the harder it is to keep the line clean. Start with the whale, because her story is the one that broke people's hearts around the world. In the summer of 2018, in the cold green water off the coast of Washington state, a killer whale known to researchers as J35, called Tahlequah, gave birth. The calf, a little female, died within hours. That happens often with these whales. Up to 7 in 10 pregnancies end this way. What Tahlequah did next is what nobody was ready for. She refused to let the body go. She balanced her dead calf on the flat of her head and pushed it up through the water over and over so it wouldn't sink. And she kept doing it, not for an hour, not for a day, for 17 days across roughly 1,000 miles of open ocean. Think about what that costs. A killer whale has to dive and hunt to eat. Tahlequah couldn't, not properly, not while balancing a body that kept slipping off. The calf weighed a few hundred pounds. When it slid away, she dove down, caught it, and lifted it back up. Michael Weiss and the team at the Center for Whale Research watched the whole thing, and other whales in her pod slowed down and stayed with her, some of them apparently taking turns helping to keep the calf afloat. Researchers came to call it the tour of grief. Here's the part that makes it worse and stranger. In the winter of 2025, she did it again. Another calf, born just before the new year, dead within about a week. And Tahlequah, the same whale, began carrying the body a second time. Scientists who study her think there might be something about her as an individual, some particular way she bonds, that makes this behavior so extreme in her. But she is not the only whale to have done it. She's just the one who did it the longest, and the loudest, right where the cameras could see. Now be careful here, because this is exactly the spot where our own feelings can run ahead of the facts. A skeptic has a fair question. Maybe the whale isn't grieving. Maybe her instinct to care for a newborn just doesn't have an off switch. The calf triggers the caregiving. The calf is dead. The instinct keeps firing into empty air. That's a real possibility, and honest scientists say so out loud. But then you have to explain the 17 days. You have to explain the diving down to catch a sinking body again and again while going hungry. At some point, the word instinct starts to feel too small for what you're watching. And that's the thing about this whole subject. Every case leaves a crack of doubt, and the doubt is where it gets interesting. So let's go to the animals we've actually run experiments on. The elephants. Anyone who's spent time around wild elephants will tell you the same story. When a herd comes across the body of another elephant, the mood changes. They slow. They go quiet in a way elephants almost never are. They reach out with their trunks and touch the body, gently, along the face and the tusks and the feet. Sometimes they try to lift it. Sometimes they stand there for a long time and do almost nothing at all, which for an elephant is its own kind of loud. In 2019, 2 researchers named Shifra Goldenberg and George Wittemyer gathered up 32 separate recorded cases of wild African elephants meeting their dead from all across the continent and looked for the pattern. It was there. Over and over the same behaviors. Approaching, touching, investigating the body with the trunk at every stage, from a fresh carcass all the way down to sun-bleached bones scattered in the dirt. That last detail is the one that snags you. Bones. Not a body that still smells and looks like a living elephant, but a pile of dry, white, years-old bones. And still they stop. The question is whether they know whose bones those are, and whether they know what bones mean. So somebody tested it. Back in 2006, a scientist named Karen McComb ran a clean little experiment in Kenya. She laid out objects for wild elephants to find and watched which ones they cared about. Elephant skulls, elephant ivory, the skull of a rhino, the skull of a buffalo. Plain pieces of wood, and the elephants were not remotely even-handed about it. They went for the elephant things. The ivory pulled them in the hardest, then the elephant skulls, far more than the rhino or the buffalo or the wood. They knew somehow that these particular objects belonged to their own kind. What they did not do was single out the skull of their own dead matriarch over the skull of a stranger. So they recognize elephant. It's less clear that they recognize her. And that is the knife's edge this whole topic balances on. There's a difference between knowing a body is one of us and understanding that a specific individual you loved is gone forever. The first one, elephants clearly have. The second one, the big one, the one that feels like grief the way we mean it, that's the part we can't quite prove from the outside. But the field notes keep pushing at it. There was a famous matriarch named Eleanor who collapsed and died in Kenya, and in the days after, elephants from families that weren't even related to her came to her body, one after another, to inspect it. They didn't have to. Nothing about survival explains it. Then there are the chimpanzees, and with them, the story turns quiet and very sad. In a forest in Guinea, at a research site called Bossou, scientists watched something over the years that they almost couldn't publish without bracing people for it. When a chimpanzee infant died, its mother sometimes would not put it down. She carried the little corpse with her as she traveled and fed and slept. Days passed. The body dried in the heat and mummified, went stiff and leathery, and stopped looking like a baby at all. And the mothers kept carrying them, kept grooming them, brushing away flies, holding them close. One mother carried her dead infant for weeks. This was written up by Biro and her colleagues in 2010, and it's not a one-off. Chimpanzee mothers doing this has been seen again and again. You could tell yourself the same skeptical story as with the whale. The mothering instinct stuck on. And maybe. But watch what the rest of the group does around a death, and it gets harder to hold that line. Chimpanzees have been seen going silent near a body, approaching it with a strange, nervous care, some of them pulling back, some reaching out to touch, and then flinching away. When an old member of a group dies, the others sometimes fall into a hush and stay near the body through the night. That doesn't look like an instinct misfiring. That looks like a group that knows something enormous has happened and doesn't know what to do about it. So where does that leave the real question? Do they understand death? Scientists have a careful way of breaking this down, and it helps. To truly understand death, the way an adult human does, you'd need to grasp a few separate ideas. That the body has stopped working and won't start again. That the state is permanent, no coming back. That it happens to everyone, including, one day, you. And here's the honest answer. We have strong evidence that some animals get the first part. The whale, the elephant, the chimpanzee, they clearly register that this body is different, that it's wrong, that it matters. Whether they hold the second part, the permanence, the forever of it, is something we genuinely do not know. And the third part, the knowledge of one's own coming death, may belong to us alone. May. Even that word is doing a lot of work, because every year the animals surprise us again. What we can say is that the old, comfortable story was wrong. The story where humans grieve and everything else just eats and sleeps and survives. That story doesn't survive contact with a whale carrying her baby for 17 days, or an elephant running its trunk over bones it can't stop returning to, or a mother chimp who won't set down a body that no longer resembles her child. Something is happening in there. Something that looks, from the outside, an awful lot like a broken heart. And maybe that's the thing worth sitting with tonight. We tend to think of grief as the price of being human, the tax we pay for having minds big enough to love and to remember. But if these animals feel even a piece of what we feel, then grief isn't the lonely human burden we thought it was. It's older than us. It was already moving through the oceans and the forests and the savannah long before anyone built a grave or said a word over one. The whale didn't need language to refuse to let go. She just couldn't. And in that, of all things, she might be more like you than almost anything else alive.